Hello everybody, welcome to the last topic of lesson 9. My name is Omid Fatemi. I am going to talk about a float property in this session. This is part of lesson 9 and the lesson is part of Web Fundamentals course. In the previous topics in lesson 9, we learned about margins, padding, alignment, and center. Now we are going to talk about float property. The float property is very important. It is essential because it will allow elements to be moved horizontally so that other elements can wrap around them. We will see that in the next example. Float property is frequently used with images, but you could also use it with various other elements in your layout. Elements float horizontally with two possible values, right or left. Aligns elements to the left when you say float left, and aligns element to the right when you say float right. Float values impact how elements align within containing element. Let's look at an example. We are going to use three boxes, three div sections. All of them have been used by float left. So the boxes try to align to the left. But here we have three boxes. So what happens? You see, this is how they aligned, how they are aligned. Box number 1, red, is aligned left. So it is aligned left because we have put float left. Then we have green box, and again we said that it should float left, so it aligns to the left side of the box. And then we have blue. Again here we have float left, but if it is going to be here, putting as a left alignment here, then it doesn't fit in the display area, so it moves to the next row and it come here. If the display was larger, for example this would be our display, then all of the boxes red, green, and blue would be appear like this. Now let's see another example. In this example, div number 1 and div number 3 still they have float left. So they are going to align to the left side of the container of the parent element. However, we put float right with div number 2, the green one. So what happens? If you look at here, div number 1 has float left, so it comes here. Then we have div number 2 which says float right. So the green box is going to become to the right side of the display area. And then we have div number 3 which is float left again. So this is going to go to the left side. And they are all fit to the side because here I put a smaller width for the boxes. So you could see here box number 3 comes before box number 2 because box number 2 is aligned right and box number 3 is aligned left. Sometimes, as you saw, floating makes trouble for you and you don't want anything to float over your element. So you would use clear property. Clear property, you could use possible values of left, right, both, none, and inherit. So if you use clear left, It means that it prevents floating elements on the left. No other floating elements are allowed to the left side of this element. And if you put right, it means no other floating elements are allowed to the right side of this element. Floating and clearing are learned through practice. You should do as much as practice you can, and I will give you an assignment for you to work on that. And if you try to make float clear with margins, alignments, so they are making challenges for you to make a good layout of your design. The clear property is useful tool because it will override the floating over one element. Lesson 9. In lesson 9, we talked about fundamental style properties in CSS, which are margin, padding, alignment, centering, and floating. Margin controls a space around the element, outside of the element, padding inside the element, and float allows for a specific placement of elements floating over each other. Now, it's good to reflect on what you learned in this session. Try to explain the purpose of the float property in CSS. Why do we need float? And then what considerations should be taken into account when you are going to see the problems in your layout related to floated elements. And then discuss how the concepts of floating and clearing should be considered in the context of responsive web design. For the assignment, try to design a web page using the float property to create a multi-column structure. Include at least 3 distinct sections with images, text, and other elements, and try to experiment with left and right floats to see which works better for you. Use at least 3 div elements. Incorporate image and text inside each section, and then try to use left and right floats for all of the sections. And try to apply appropriate margins and padding to enhance your design. Include a brief explanation of whatever code you have written in HTML and CSS, and submit the codes and with your explanation and the capture of your design. Now go to the course and read the textual content, and you could reflect on the float section and then do the assignment. Now the lesson 9 is finished, and now we go to the next lesson. The next lesson would be understanding the CSS box model and positioning. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for your attention. Now go to the site and do activities. Have a good time.